and this is breaking news brought to you by NAKLJ News. The leaders of Soviet Union and the U.S. had a 13-day military and political standoff. Now with Laura live at the scene. Laura?
Go ahead, there's something big going on right now. Let's go. Kennedy, big fan. Khrushchev, how do you feel about the missiles Kennedy has in Turkey?
We have missiles in Cuba.
What do you have to say about that?
They won't be there for long.
Oh, was that a threat? I've been sitting here for 13 days and none of them have fired yet.
Are you ready to go fight for democracy?
Yes, President Kennedy, I am.
Go make your country proud.
On April 17th, 1961, the Americans launched an invasion on Cuba. Though it failed, it was known as the Bay of Pigs.
The Soviet Union has installed nuclear-armed missiles in Cuba, only 90 miles from the U.S. shore. President Kennedy, with help from the ex-com, has decided to enact a naval blockade. Kennedy stated that he will not hesitate to use the missiles to neutralize the threat from Soviet Union. The Soviets approached the naval blockade, but stopped short when they saw American ships. Khrushchev and Kennedy finally came to an agreement in which they both removed their missiles. Welcome. Joining us today is John F. Kennedy with some news on the Cuban Missile Crisis. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Why don't you explain to the viewers how the Cuban Missile Crisis started?
So, the Soviet Union and United States have been having tensions for about 15 years now, and you all know this as the Cold War. So, the Cuban Missile Crisis started off during the Cuban Civil War, in which Fidel Castro tried to turn Cuba into a communist country while they were vulnerable. Now, the Soviet Union was trying to back him up, but as a democratic state, we didn't want to let that happen. So that's when we decided we needed to send troops into Cuba to keep Cuba from becoming a communist country.
Did you feel threatened by Nikita Khrushchev?
I knew he had nuclear weapons and advanced war technology, but I just didn't know where. That was until we witnessed the U-2 spy plane flying over Cuba, and at that point we decided that we would publicly place nuclear weapons in Turkey just as a threat to them, so they knew not to mess with us.
Explain the strategies you used to remove the Soviet influence on Cuba.
So first of all, in an attempt to meet our threat, the Soviet Union placed missiles in Cuba. And seeing that they were growing their communistic influence, the Federation and I decided to place a naval blockade to block Soviet shipments into Cuba and also blocking their influence. And to our surprise, the Soviet Union decided to back down.
And how did you come to an agreement with them?
So a man named Fomin, he is a Soviet living in the United States, kind of brought to light what was happening. And he's the one who actually came up with the idea of a peaceful agreement. And that's when the United States just took out their missiles in Turkey, and in agreement, the Soviet Union took out their missiles in Cuba. And we also took out our troops that were in Cuba after the Bay of Pigs. I think we were lucky that this came because we were on the verge of a nuclear war and even possibly World War III.
Thank you for coming and giving your side of the story.
You're welcome.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Aline, and today we have with us the Soviet Union leader Nikita Khrushchev.
Hi, thank you for having me.
No problem. Okay, so let's start off. Why do you think the Soviet Union will back down from the blockade?
We backed down from the blockade because we did not want to start a third World War. Tensions were already very high during the Cold War period, and we did not want to be the cause for any further complications.
Why do you think the United States was at fault for their quarantine?
Because the United States was at fault for the quarantine because it was a euphemism for the word blockade, and it made the United States seem like a caring country when that wanted the best for others. However, the United States only wanted the best for themselves.
All right, next question. Do you consider the Soviet Union as a fair country?
We have and support communism, so I would say that's as fair as it gets.
Who do you think will win the Cold War?
I think that the Cold War period is far from over, but I think that the Soviet Union has a high chance